International Toastmasters. Let me give you a brief history on Toastmasters International. More than 1 million individuals have benefited from the communication and leadership programs of Toastmasters International. The organization continues to grow because it is helping individuals themselves and apply their skills to help others. The first club was formed in October 1924, and there are more than 160,000 Toastmasters around the world today. This is the world's largest organization devoted to communication excellence. There are many forms of recognition bestowed on Toastmasters for speaking achievements. The first one is your CTM, which is a competent Toastmaster. You have to have completed 10 projects in the Communication and Leadership Program Manual. That's what I'm working on now. I have completed 6 of my speeches. The second honor is an ATM, Able Toastmaster, completing 3 advanced manuals, serve as an elected club officer, and you have to give 3 speeches outside of your club. The third and highest award in Toastmasters International is the DTM, Distinguished Toastmasters. Our meetings are exactly 1 hour long. An agenda for the meeting is it is opened up by the Sergeant at Arms, who hands it off to the President. The President calls for the invocation and pledge. The President introduces the Toastmaster of the day, who conducts the meeting. The Toastmaster calls for the word of the day. The word of the day is any word that a Toastmaster decides to use to increase your vocabulary. Then we have an educational moment. Then the Toastmaster introduces the General Evaluator. The General Evaluator introduces his team. His team consists of Table Topics Master, an counter, a grammarian, and a timer. The timer keeps track of all your time. The counter counts the ahs, the ums, the ands. And the evaluators evaluate the speeches, and the general evaluator evaluates the entire meeting. Then we vote on the best table topic, the best speaker, the best evaluator. That's generally how our meeting goes, and then the meeting is closed. Now, a typical example of a table topics, that teaches you to talk impromptu, to just talk for about a minute, minute and a half on your feet on any subject. For an example, if you were given the sentence, "Do not mend your neighbor's fence before looking at your own," I would get up and I would say, "Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guest, do not mend your neighbor's fence before mending your own." That sentence to me means you have to clean up your own backyard, fix your own fence, before you can go out and try to tell someone else to mend their own. You have to clean up your own act. Do not try to clean up someone else's act. Try to tell them what to do before you have cleaned up your own act. That's a typical table topics. You would have to talk for about a minute, minute and a half, and that's an impromptu speaking. We also learn how to use our voice, gestures. We learn how to use notes. An example of a good speaking voice is to be pleasant, convey a sense of warmth, to be natural, reflecting your true personality and sincerity, to be dynamic, giving the impression of force and strength, to be expressive, portraying various shades of meaning and never sounding monotonous or without emotion. And you want to be easily heard. I want to read from a famous speech an example of voice variety. The first one I will read with no variety. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plains, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where my father died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men, white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." Now that was read with little voice variety or expression. Now let me read it again. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meanings of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall be seen together. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where my father died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men, white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." I have an example of one of my manual speeches that I would like to read. The objective of this speech is to gather accurate, up-to-date information, to expand your knowledge, and it has to be read before the club in an interesting, lively, and meaningful manner. This speech is about 6 to 7 minutes. Now, we all watch TV. We all go to movies. But Western history has obscured the Negro participation. Nat Love, Isoni Dart, James Willis, Bill Pickett. Who are they? The cowboy was thought of as being white and frequently a Southern young man gone west to escape the aftermath of the war. In reality, he was often black or brown. Texas, the source of so many cowboys, was a slave state, and the population was 70 to 80% slaves. Now, the black cowboys are forgotten, but they once rode all the trails, driving millions of cattle before them. Some died in stampedes, some froze to death, some drowned. Some were too slow with guns, some too fast. But most of them lived through the long drives to Abilene and Dodge City. Many of them drove on to the far reaches of the Southern Range, to the Dakotas, Wyoming, and Montana. Whether one judges by Hollywood movies, television, westerns, novels, or school texts, the settlers and cowboys on the last frontier always looked something like Gary Cooper or John Wayne. If any were of dark complexion, it was obviously from the broiling western sun, not natural skin pigmentation. None ever looked like Sidney Poitier or Ossie Davis. Western history has obscured the Negro participation. Americans, black and white, have been led to believe that the typical frontier characteristics included only whites and savage Indians. The range cattle industry began, matured, and collapsed in 30 years, from 1865 to 1895. There were always Negroes in the West. They had indeed been scattered throughout the Western Hemisphere since the first importation as slaves at the beginning of the 16th century. The cowboy was reputed to be rowdy, dangerous, lawless, reckless individuals who were constantly armed with a pistol and ready to use it. Nat Love and 5,000 other black cowpunchers drove cattle up the Chisholm Trail after the Civil War. 20% of the blue-coated cavalrymen who tamed the last frontier, fighting Billy the Kid and Sitting Bull, were Negroes. Nat Love was born in an old cabin in Davison County, Tennessee, in June 1854. He was one of the many Southern Negroes who found their opportunities crushed by slavery and the continuation of white supremacy that followed the Civil War. The lack of schools for black children in this part of the state caused Love, at 15, to head west and seek employment. He arrived in the town of Dodge City and approached a campsite where they were eating their breakfast. Love asked the camp boss for a job as a cowboy. The camp boss asked Love if he could ride a wild horse. This is when Love was nicknamed Red River Dick. From the moment he left Tennessee, he went west. Love appeared to have forgotten the color of his skin. Among other things that Love picked up on his many wanderings was the knowledge of the Spanish language that he had learned and spoke like a native. July 4th, 1876, Nat Love entered the rodeo at Deadwood City in the Dakota Territory. He won several roping and shooting contests, and the assembled crowd named him Deadwood Dick and proclaimed him champion roper of the Western cattle country. His proud nickname and honor he carried for the rest of his life. Love never forgot those days on the range or his soulmates, Bat Masterson, Frank and Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and many others from both sides of the law. The first man shot in Dodge City was a tall Negro cowboy named Tex, an innocent bystander to a fight between two whites. The first man arrested and jailed in Abilene's New Stone Jail was not innocent, and he was black. Isoni Dart, born in slavery in Arkansas in 1849, was a tall, husky, black cattle rustler. He was only 51 when he was shot in the back and killed. Dart was a Negro and one of the best cowboys ever to mount a horse. James Willis, or Bronco Jim, was considered to be among one of the greatest cowboys in the Western history for bareback and bronco riding and horse breaking. Bill Pickett was a black Texan who introduced the art of bulldogging to rodeos. Born on a ranch near Tyler, Texas in 1860, Bill Pickett was a black cowboy who became a legacy rodeo star, touring America and England in Colonel Zach Miller's famous 101 Wild West show with fellow performer Will Rogers. The real story is not about one group alone, but about all the men who conquered the grassland of the old Western Empire. Nat Love, Isoni Dart, James Willis, Bill Pickett. Who were they? The point of their history is not that they were different from their companions, but that they were similar. Americans need to share in the heritage of the West, and the injustice of the obscured black cowboy should be learned and remembered. Now I would like to give you an example of a humorous speech which I gave just a couple of nights ago and happened to win Best Speaker for the evening. We have a humorous speech contest that is coming up, and I believe that I am going to enter into that contest. I would like to tell you tonight about pets. Now, wouldn't it be nice to have a pet that did not poop? Can you imagine having a pet that you don't have to clean up poop? I grew up with pets, and pets are expensive. Before you go out to purchase a pet, you need to find out what kind of pet it is that you want to purchase, about how much it's going to eat, what type of veterinarian bills you're going to have, where is it going to be housed? Do you have to purchase a house? Fences? Is it going to be in the house? Is it going to be outside? How much exercise does it require? When my son was young, he caught a snapping turtle and brought it home. Immediately, I ran out to the pet store, bought one of those cute little dishes to put the turtle in, had it full of sand, had water in there. One day, I was sitting in the living room, and out of the corner of my eye, I happened to see something moving across the kitchen floor. Lo and behold, the turtle had gotten out of its little dish. So I said, well, we can't have that. So I put it in an aquarium, 10-gallon aquarium. Had it all full of sand, had sunk a bowl of water in it so it looked like a pond, put plants in there. I went into my son's room one day. The turtle was on the floor, looked kind of dried up. I picked it up by the tail, threw it in the compactor. I had been sitting watching TV. About an hour or so later, it happened to cross my mind. I wonder if that turtle was really dead. So I went back into the kitchen, opened the compactor, pulled the turtle out, dropped him back in the dish of water. He started to swim around. He was not dead. Fortunately, I did not turn the compactor on. We never have gotten into having mice, gerbils. It's too much like a rat. Could not have a pet like that in my house. But we have had dogs. With dogs, you have to train them. You have to potty train them, which means you have to clean up poop. Now, can you imagine having a pet that you do not have to clean up poop? Well, I purchased a pet in 1975 that is a genuine pedigreed pet. This pet, I'm not for sure what it is. It doesn't really have a sex. It's not a male or a female. You don't have to feed it. You don't have to water it. You don't have to exercise. And the pet does not poop. Now let me introduce my pet to you. My pet that I purchased comes in its own little container, comes in its own little box. It has bedding, it has holes in the box, and my pet is a pet rock. And believe me, the rock does not poop. But it is interesting when you do go out to purchase pets that you do have to take into consideration all the expenses that is incurred with having the pet. So for the person that has everything, the pet rock would be ideal. I would like to leave you with a thought. Being a Toastmaster, I use this thought in several of my speeches, that was given to me by my mother, and my grandmother had given it to her. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe you were made to do any task without calling for aid. Believe without growing too scornfully proud that you, as the greatest and least, are endowed. A mind to do thinking, 2 hands and 2 eyes are all the equipment God gives to the wise. Believe in yourself. You're divinely designed and perfectly made for the work of mankind. This truth you must cling to. Through danger and pain, the heights man has reached, you can also attain. Believe to the very last hour, for it's true that whatever you will, you've been gifted to do. Believe in yourself and step out unafraid. By misgivings and doubt, be not easily swayed. You've the right to succeed. The precision of skill, which betokens the great, you can earn if you will. The wisdom of ages is yours if you'll read, but you've got to believe in yourself to succeed. Well, Mama, we finally got your tape together, so now you have an example of what Toastmasters is all about. Love you, Beecher. We're done.